All right, guys, we are going to walk through talking about monohybrid crosses today. So when you came into class, you should have picked up or you were given a new essential question sheet. And so we have a new essential question. And this one's not really much of a question, but we have a new thing that we're going to focus on, and that's to determine the probability of Mendelian characteristics. So just like we did last time, the first thing I want you to do is we're gonna pause the video for a second, and I want you to write down in there, what do you know already about Mendelian characteristics, about Mendel, about his traits, about what he did, how he did it. So take about 5 minutes and pause the video and write that down in what you know. All right, so you paused the video, hopefully you went through that. We have some questions that we want to ask in there. So again, this is going to go in the what do we want to know? What do we need to know about determining the probability of Mendelian characteristics? So the first thing, what tool do we use? So we should know that already, and we probably are thinking about it. The tool that we're going to use is a Punnett square. So, and then how do we represent dominant and recessive genotypes? So again, when we talk about dominant and recessive, we're going to use capital letters for dominant genes and alleles, and then recessive alleles and our genotypes, we're going to use lowercase letters. And then how are we going to represent our results? So remember, whenever we do these, it's going to ask you to write out genotypic and phenotypic ratios. And remember, the genotypic ratios are the ratios that are talking about the genetic makeup. And when we talk about phenotypic ratios, what we're really talking about is the appearance. So how often do we see an actual appearance happen? So what you're going to get is you're going to get another SpongBob worksheet. What I want you to do is to take about 10-15 minutes and go through and do this, and then we're going to go through and do it together afterwards. So again, go ahead and pause the video and work through this worksheet. Will take about 15 minutes. All right, so hopefully most of you have finished the worksheet. What I want to do is to go through and do this together. So let's look at number one. These are all genotypes, right? So 2 letters, these are my genotype. So if I have capital L, that should be long. If I have lowercase y there, then we're going to be blue because that would be both recessive. Big S, little s would be square. Big R, we should get round. Big R, little r, again, we're still going to get round. Because remember, in Mendelian characteristics, we talk about complete dominance, which means anytime this capital letter is present, we're going to get that dominant phenotype. So little l, that would be stubby. Little s, we would have, again, round pants. And then big Y, little y, we're going to get yellow. So now we want to do the same general thing down here, except now we want to go, instead of phenotypes, we want to do genotypes. So yellow body, one option, big Y, but then another one, little y. Round pants, well, our only option for that is 2 little s's, because it's recessive, right? So the only way to get that is to have 2 little s's there. Oval eyes, again, that's recessive, so 2 little r's. Long nose, we can be homozygous dominant, or, again, and I'm going to use a cursive L just so we can tell, or we can be heterozygous. Stubby nose, lowercase l. Round eyes, big R, or big R, little r. Square pants, big S, little s, or big S. And then blue body, again, 2 lowercase y's. So hopefully we're following along up to this point. So if I want to fill some of this in down here at the very bottom, heterozygous round eyes. So we use R, and then heterozygous means we have different alleles. So big R, little r. Purebred square pants. Remember, when we talk about purebreds, whether it's in this or whether it's in Mendel's experiment, that means they have the same gene or the same alleles, and that means that they're homozygous. So if it's purebred square pants, that would be big S. Homozygous long nose, Big L, big L. And then hybrid yellow body, again, another word for hybrid, is going to be heterozygous. So let's keep working through. So in this one of SpongeBob's cousins, SpongeBob, Billy Bob, which evidently is the hillbilly version of SpongeBob, recently met a cute SquarePants girl, Sponge Gertie, at a local dance and fell in love. And naturally, whenever you meet someone at a dance, you evidently want to figure out what your babies are going to look like. Bikini Bottoms is a super weird place. So if we go down and keep looking at this, Sponge Gertie's, and we want to make sure that we recognize this, Sponge Gertie, not SpongeBob, her father is heterozygous SquarePants. So I'm going to write this here. That means he's big S, little s, and her mother is round pants. So her mother is little s, little s. So what is Sponge Gertie's genotype? So we know that Sponge Gertie, right here, is that she's a SquarePants gal. So let's take her parents, big S, little s. Oh, little s, little s. So my Punnett square, I end up with this cross. So of that, if we know that she's SquarePants, what's the only option for her? So hopefully you had written down heterozygous big S, little s, because this is the only genotype that's going to show that correct phenotype. So then we keep going down, complete the second Punnett square to show the possibilities result if Billy Bob and Gertie had children. So Billy Bob is heterozygous. So again, we're going to go here, big S, little s, big S, little s. So we get homozygous dominant there. And this is what we end up with. So what's the probability that the kids are going to be SquarePants? Well, this would be square. So that's 1 out of 4. This would be square, 2 out of 4. And then this would be square. So that's our 3 out of 4. So that's 75%. What's the probability they're going to be round pants? And I probably should have done that better, but that one there, 25%, right? Now this again is the law of addition. So when we talk about the law of addition, these are mutually exclusive events, and we're just going to add them together. So 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4 equals 3/4. Now, if we said what's the probability of having 3 kids that are all SquarePants in a row, then we would multiply them out and it would change it. But right now we're just talking about adding them together. So number 5 then, SpongeBob's aunt and uncle, Sponge Wilma and Sponge Wilbur, weirdest names, have the biggest round eyes in the family. Wilma is believed to be heterozygous for her round eye shape, while Wilbur's family brags that they are purebred line. Complete the Punnett square to show the possibilities that would result if Sponge Wilma and Sponge Wilbur had children. So, Wilma thinks that she is heterozygous. So, if we go back and look, when we're talking about eyes, round and oval, so we're going to use the letter R. So she thinks she is heterozygous, and then brags that they are purebred, and they both have round eyes. So if he's purebred for round eyes, be capital R, capital R. So again, doesn't matter whether you put Wilma or Wilbur on the side, we end up with a cross that looks like this. So what's the probability the kids are going to have round eyes? Well, our probability is 100%. Now the next question is, would they still be purebreds? And we saw this on the last one. Well, 50% of the kids would have a chance of being purebreds, but the other 50% would not be purebreds anymore because we would call them heterozygous. So a couple of last ones on there. Number 6, SpongeBob's mother is so proud of her son and his new wife, Sponge Susie, as they're expecting a new little sponge. She knows that they have a 50% chance of having a little round pants, but is also hoping the new arrival will be blue, a recessive trait like Sponge Susie and many of her family. If SpongeBob is heterozygous for his yellow body color, what are the chances the baby sponge will be blue? So let's look at this. Sponge Susie is blue, which means she's lowercase y, lowercase y. SpongeBob, it says, is heterozygous, so he's big Y, little y. So again, we're going to come over, do our cross, whoops, do our cross, little y, little y. So if I fill this in, what are the chances that the baby sponge will be blue? Well, this genotype would be blue, that genotype would be blue. So it would be 2 out of 4, or 50% chance. And the last one we're going to do together on this, SpongeBob's aunt is famous around town for her itty bitty stubby nose. She recently, and actually I take that back, we're going to do number 8 too. She recently met a cute SquarePants fellow who also has a stubby nose, which is a recessive trait. Would it be possible for them to have a child with a regular nose? Why or why not? Well, let's look back at our beginning and our shape. So stubby nose right here is recessive. So we're going to come back and look at number 7. So she is recessive, which is lowercase l, lowercase l. And then she met a fellow that also has a stubby nose, lowercase l, lowercase l. So if we fill this in, what we'll see is, what is the only possible genotype? Well, the only genotype possible is lowercase l, and that would be found 100% of the time. And then the phenotype for that's going to be stubby 100% of the time. So the question asks, would it be possible for them to have a child with a regular nose? No, because they're both recessive. So they can't have any children that have long noses. If SpongeBob's aunt described in number 7 wanted to have children with long noses, what type of fellow would she need to marry to give her the best chances? Well, we know that she's lowercase l, lowercase l. Now, if she married a fellow who was heterozygous for his long nose, then she would have a 50% chance of having a baby that had a long nose. But if we draw out another square, if she still has her stubby nose, if she married a fellow who was homozygous, well, then what would be the chances? Well, the chances then would be 100%. Every one of their offspring, every one of their children would have one capital letter, which means if they have that, long nose. So you're going to do another worksheet in a minute. Once you do that worksheet, you can go on your Google Drive or you can go on YouTube. I'll email out a link and you can pull up a video that will go through all of the answers for that one.